Welcome back this evening. It's time again to drift a little higher, to that place above thought where the night feels lighter than air. You've left the noise of the day far below. Now there's only calm and the faint silver trace of the moon waiting above the valley. Sometimes, when the mist gathers just right, it shapes itself into something almost real. A line of light, a suggestion of steps. A bridge made not of stone or wood, but of air itself. Tonight's story is called The Bridge Made of Clouds. It begins in that soft hour when the moon turns the world to silver and the wind forgets where it's been. You'll follow the faint shimmer of vapor that appears where the earth meets the sky, a path that doesn't lead across the night, but through it. Take a slow breath and let your body rest as your mind begins to wander upward. The air is calm, the way ahead is light. There's nowhere you need to be but here. The mist had gathered thicker than usual that night, pooling low across the valley floor like a tide that had forgotten to leave. From the ridge above, I could see the pale silver of moonlight threading through it, scattering in long, trembling ribbons. It looked almost solid from where I stood, like I could walk out across it and never fall. And then I saw it, a shape forming where the moonlight touched the densest part of the cloud, faint lines bending upward, arching into the night. At first, I thought it was just the play of light and air, the kind of illusion that disappears the moment you try to focus on it. But this didn't vanish. The more I looked, the clearer it became. A bridge, long and delicate, its surface made entirely of mist lit from within. It rose gently from the valley, curving high into the open dark like a thought half remembered. I watched it shimmer, waiting for it to fade, but it stayed. The air felt different around me, lighter, thinner, as if gravity had loosened its hold just a little. The wind had stilled. Even the trees nearby seemed to lean back, their branches lifting faintly toward the strange structure that hung above the world. I hesitated. Then curiosity, that quiet pull that has a way of ignoring reason, urged me forward. The first step was nothing at all. My foot touched what should have been air, and the surface rippled like calm water disturbed by a single drop. A faint glow spread beneath me, a soft pulse, welcoming but uncertain. It held my weight. The weight felt like the wrong word. I was standing, yes, but lighter somehow, as though I'd left something behind on the ridge without realizing it. When I took another step, the bridge brightened just slightly, and a low hum rose from beneath the clouds. It wasn't a sound that came through the ears, but through the bones, deep and round and full, like a sigh from the sky itself. Each step forward seemed to tune me closer to it, and by the fourth or fifth, I could almost hum along. The bridge continued upward, disappearing into the mist, and I followed. The valley below was gone now, swallowed by fog and moonlight, leaving only the pale arc beneath my feet. The air changed as I climbed. It felt cooler, thinner, yet somehow easier to breathe, as though each inhale carried more than air. The bridge curved gently upward, its edges soft and shifting, like the whole thing was exhaling beneath me. When I looked down, I couldn't see the valley anymore. There was only a slow swirl of cloud, silver at the top and blue-gray beneath, folding into itself like water stirred by a hand. The glow beneath my feet pulsed in a rhythm that matched my steps, steady and patient. It almost felt alive, not in the way of something watching, but something listening. The mist around me thickened, and for a while I could only see a few feet ahead. The bridge continued without hesitation, stretching forward as if it knew the way even when I didn't. It was strange comfort, trusting something that shouldn't exist. Now and then, the clouds parted just enough to reveal faint glimpses of what lay beyond, drifting shapes that might have been peaks or might have been nothing at all. A slow ripple of light passed beneath me, trailing off into the mist like a signal, soft and wordless. For the first time, I wondered if anyone else had ever walked this path. If the bridge appeared for everyone who looked hard enough, or only when the sky decided it wanted company. I kept walking. The slope grew steeper, but my legs didn't tire. Each step felt less like climbing and more like rising, as if the bridge itself was lifting me, carrying me upward on its own slow breath. Somewhere in the fog ahead, I saw a faint shimmer, a gathering of light that seemed to hover at the highest point of the arc. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat in the clouds. The hum beneath me deepened, resonating through the air, low and beautiful. It wasn't mechanical. It felt natural, like the sound of wind moving through a hollow shell or water against stone. I could feel it in my chest, matching my pulse until the two were almost indistinguishable. And in that moment, I realized that I no longer felt like I was walking through air, but through sound, through light, through something much softer than either. The light ahead grew stronger the closer I came, though not in a blinding way. It was diffuse and gentle, like the moon spread itself thin through the mist. As I approached, I realized it wasn't a single glow, but many, countless faint orbs suspended in the air, drifting in slow patterns as if pulled by invisible tides. They swirled around the bridge in quiet motion, brushing past my arms and face like cool breath. Each touch left behind a faint warmth that lingered only for a moment. The hum beneath my feet rose in pitch, harmonizing with summoning in the air. It reminded me of wind chimes caught in the distance, though there was no wind here. The tones layered together, creating a slow, repeating rhythm that seemed to guide my pace forward. I found myself walking in time with it, step after step, matching the song of the clouds. It felt less like travel and more like participation, like I'd become part of something that existed long before me. The orbs gathered closer now, aligning themselves into loose trails that drifted alongside me. They looked like stars that had fallen asleep mid-descent, suspended just long enough to dream. I reached out my hand, and one paused near my fingers, pulsing faintly as if listening. Then it drifted upward, joining the others in their slow rotation above. It was strange. Everything here seemed to move with intention, yet nothing hurried. The bridge began to level out. I could no longer tell if I was higher or lower than before. Direction felt irrelevant now. All around me, the mist had thinned into translucent layers, and I could see through them in shifting glimpses. Below, the valley appeared faintly, distant lights from towns blinking like small constellations. It felt impossibly far away, as if I were watching from another world entirely. A soft voice, not heard, but felt, brushed the edge of my awareness. It wasn't language, more like tone or rhythm, carrying a sense of invitation. The kind that says, "Keep going, without ever speaking the words. And so I did, following the glow and the hum into the bright, endless air. The bridge continued ahead, quiet and sure, waiting for me to see where it led. The air thinned to something weightless, so light it seemed to move through me rather than around me. Every breath felt both endless and insubstantial, as though I were inhaling the same quiet that filled the sky. The glow of the bridge softened beneath my feet, its edges dissolving into long ribbons of vapor that curled and disappeared behind me. It was less a structure now, and more an idea, a suggestion of direction held together by will alone. I continued walking, though it no longer felt like effort. Above me, the orbs had begun to fade, replaced by long threads of light that stretched outward into the distance. They bent and intersected like the lines of a great invisible map. Where they met, faint sparks glowed, not fire but points of recognition, like places where something unseen had brushed against itself. I followed one of the lines as it curved upward, sensing that it knew where it was going, even if I didn't. The hum that had once filled the air was softer now, replaced by something steadier, a kind of silence that had shape. The moon appeared again, larger than before, its reflection stretching across the thin layer of mist beneath my feet. For a moment, I wasn't sure if it was the real moon above or the mirrored one below that was brighter. The bridge between them flickered slightly, as though caught between the two. I reached the center point, the exact place where the curve turned to descent, and paused. There, suspended between the two halves of light, the world felt perfectly balanced. I stood for a long time, watching the mist drift across the surface. The bridge breathed with me, subtle pulses traveling outward from wherever I shifted my weight. The rhythm was familiar, like a lullaby I couldn't remember the words to. I let my hands fall to my sides and closed my eyes. When I opened them again, I wasn't sure whether time had passed at all. The light of the bridge began to dim, but not fade. It was becoming transparent, returning itself to the sky. I could see faint constellations through it now, shining gently where the mist had thinned. Each star seemed to pulse once in greeting, as though acknowledging the brief passage of something alive through their domain. And then the air grew warmer again, signaling the slow beginning of descent. The bridge sloped downward now, though it was hard to tell if I was truly descending or if the sky was simply moving closer. The air around me thickened, gathering color, faint blues and silvers mixing in slow, swirling bands. Each breath drew in a soft coolness that tingled against my throat, like breathing from the inside of a cloud. The mist below me glowed with an inner light, trembling with quiet movement that reminded me of distant waves. It all felt impossibly vast and yet intimately close. As I continued forward, the glowing lines of the bridge began to drift apart, breaking into thin streams that wove and reunited like strands of silk. They shifted underfoot, responsive to each step but never uncertain. Some part of me knew that if I stopped walking, the bridge would stop forming, that it only existed while I believed it could. That thought didn't frighten me. It made sense somehow that faith and structure were the same thing here. The mist below parted briefly, and through it I saw what looked like reflections, not of the sky, but of places I had been. A glimpse of a forest at dusk, a shoreline beneath soft rain, a narrow road where the horizon never seemed to end. They weren't memories exactly, more like echoes, the gentle replay of a life observed from far away. Each one faded as quickly as it came, dissolving into light and vapor before I could name them. I wondered how much of what we remember is simply the sky showing us itself in pieces. Far ahead, the light shifted again, less bright, more golden, like dawn remembered through a dream. It shimmered softly, and within it, I thought I saw motion, figures, faint and formless, walking along parallel arcs of the same cloud bridge. They moved without sound or hurry, their outlines rippling like reflections on water. When I blinked, they were gone, though the hum beneath my feet deepened for a heartbeat, as if acknowledging them. Perhaps I was never the only one walking here. I reached out again, and the mist curled around my fingers, cool and electric. It didn't resist, but it didn't yield either. It existed in that perfect balance between being and becoming. I took another step, and the path reshaped itself once more. The bridge wasn't leading me anywhere. It was leading me through something, through the air, through time, through the soft center of the night itself. The descent grew softer until it was hardly a slope at all, more a drifting, a slow surrender to gravity that felt optional. The mist thickened again, but this time it shimmered faintly with gold, like morning light filtering through sleep. I realized I couldn't tell anymore where the sky ended or where the valley began. Everything had blended into a single, endless layer of color and motion, the whole world breathing in quiet unison. It didn't feel like returning. It felt like dissolving. The hum beneath me softened, fading into a rhythm I could almost mistake for my own heartbeat. The bridge's glow pulsed one last time, as if giving a parting nod, then dimmed beneath my feet. For a moment, I thought it was gone, but the faintest trace of light remained, enough to hold a final step, enough to say goodbye. I took it, and the cloud gave way, not collapsing, but opening. And below me, the valley waited. I descended slowly, the mist carrying me down like a long-held breath finally released. When my feet touched the earth again, it felt solid but gentle, as though the ground itself remembered the lightness of clouds. The night was quiet, no wind, no echo, only the faint hush of distant leaves brushing together. When I looked up, the bridge was gone. Only the thin ribbon of moonlight remained, stretched across the valley like the memory of something beautiful and impossible. I sat on the ridge where I had begun, watching as the last traces of mist drifted away. It would be gone by morning, forgotten by everyone but the clouds. Still, I knew that if I ever came back, on a night when the air was just right and the moon hung low, it might find me again. And if it did, I'd follow it without hesitation. Some things are meant to be crossed more than once. So here is where the story ends. Somewhere above the valley, the clouds are gathering again, patient, drifting, waiting for the moon to remind them of their shape. Maybe, when the night grows still enough, the bridge will return. Just long enough for someone else to find it. Things like that don't vanish, they rest, suspended between sky and thought, until the world is quiet enough to see them again. Let your mind rest there too, between what's real and what's remembered. Breathe softly now. Let the last traces of this story drift through you, like mist curling back into the night air. You've walked far enough, crossed through moonlight and silence. The bridge will hold for as long as you need it to. Now, there's nothing left to do but sleep. Good night, and thank you for listening.